What is up, everybody? Skratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're gonna talk about the top 5 best epic nukers in the entire game, guys, and mainly with focus on arena, on PvP. We kind of all know that Seer is the almighty, the mother of all nukers, because she obliterates the PvE content, putting even legendaries to shame. But in terms of PvP, we actually have quite a few good epic champions. And not only PvP, guys, if you don't have a Seer, they're amazing for waves, amazing for campaign, amazing for dungeons, amazing for secret rooms in the Doom Tower. Overall, they're very, very powerful champions. We're not really gonna rank them like number 1 or this is number 2, because each one of them, they're very unique. They have a special skill that makes them very powerful for specific content in the game, as long as you build them right. So we're going to talk about the best builds for them. We're going to see what sort of numbers they can throw. I already have all of them built. Now, some of them might have a bit of a tweak in stats. They do have different base stats as well. But let's have a quick look at the champions that we're going to cover today, guys. So we're going to talk about Jimbo. I like to call him Jimbo, even though I know that's not his real name. Skullcrown, we have Lua, we have Magnar, and we have Dark Elhain. I gotta say, these are kind of like my favorite epic nukers in the entire game. I am using them very, very often, especially for PvE content, more than PvP, funny enough, because I'm talking about PvP nukers, you know. But they're very, very powerful champions, you know. So I'm actually gonna start with my all-time favorite, Skullcrown. She is such a unique champion. She's a very OG champion, actually. She's been here, I think, since I started the game. I don't think she's been added in the game afterwards. I'm still running her in a stun set, a cruel set. She has very powerful stats for the build that I have on her. Now, when we're talking about builds, guys, she works very good on counter-attack sets. I'm going to explain you that in a second. But AoE on the A1, extra hit, we kind of know what the champions are doing, so we're not really going to go over their skills. What makes her very unique is this passive, places unkillable when her HP drops below 20. She has a very good speed aura for arena. I actually have her on my free-to-play account, and she is amazing. Now, I have her build on a stun set, mainly because I'm using her in Faction Wars. The Faction Wars are very hard, okay? So she's definitely needed in a stun set, just to CC those waves constantly. I don't have a Tomb Lord on this account. Then you can build her on Savage. She's gonna deal tons and tons of damage. You can build her on Lifesteal if you want, with some resistance. That's kind of like a harder build to make. And when we're talking about counter-attack sets, I quickly want to share something with you. Funny enough, I am getting wrecked by this sometimes in 3v3 arena because I'm not paying attention, okay? And I'm getting wrecked by Retaliation or Avenging. So with Retaliation, you have a 35% chance to counterattack one hit, and with Avenging, a 40% chance to counterattack one hit with a critical hit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, with the Avenging set, when you counterattack, you're not actually losing that 20% damage reduction because you're counterattacking, you know? So that's actually pretty solid, but you need to be hit with a critical hit in order to make it work. But with Retaliation, is actually pretty nasty, because if your Arbiter uses the AoE skill or anything like that, she gets to counterattack. That's kind of what happens in 3v3 sometimes. I'm not paying enough attention, okay? And I'm getting wrecked because she constantly counterattacks over and over and over again till she kills my entire team. And then I'm like, I've just done a Papega move, you know? But these sets are actually very, very powerful for her. Savage, stun. I really prefer her on stun. I feel like with the stats I have on her, she's really doing some very good work. These are kind of like the total stats. When you're building these nukers, guys, the main thing you want to focus on is giving them 100% crit rate. Now, Jimbo, for example, doesn't require 100% crit rate. We're going to talk about that when we get to him. But the rest of champions that don't buff increased crit rate on themselves, you definitely want to make sure you have 100% crit rate, because even 99% is very annoying. Then focus on attack, focus on some crit damage, you know? Try to kind of find the right balance in between crit damage and attack. Masteries, I actually have offense and defense 3 on her. Pretty typical for a nuker, the masteries that I have on her. I have tier 6 Helm Smasher. I want her to put out some damage too, not just a CC with a stun set, you know? The next champion, because we talked about him, Jimbo the Dishonored, or Gambo. I have him on a little set, which is the Savage set that you can farm from the Doom Tower, and a speed set. Total stats on him, 4.9k attack. I actually have like 500-600 less attack than on Skullcrown, and the same amount of crit damage, but he's on Savage, okay? So that's gonna play a very big difference. Plus, he's gonna buff on himself a crit damage buff, which is gonna make his damage a bit higher overall. Now, when you're talking about this champion, he actually buffs himself, okay? So you don't need to worry about having 100% crit rate, because he's getting all this 30% crit rate and crit damage. So that actually saves you quite a bit. He has speed aura for arena battles, which is pretty good. I like about him that he's a good Skullcrown killer, okay? He kind of like decreases the duration of all buffs. This effect cannot be resisted on critical hits, which is very solid. And if you have increased attack, he's gonna ignore unkillable. So he's like the Skullcrown killer, the Leorius killer. Because of this, he's a very good champion, and he can still increase attack with A1. I kind of like this about him. In terms of masteries, I have pretty much the same thing on the offense tree, but slightly different on the support. I don't have defense tree on him. On Skullcrown, it's good to have defense tree, just because of retribution. You're gonna get to counter attack. If you have some sort of healing as well, she's gonna be able to do it for quite a few times and keep herself alive with that unkillable. But here I kind of prefer to have lasting gifts, so I don't rely on a different champion, or I don't need necessarily to put that increased crit rate, and I'm constantly gonna have that buff on him, of course with a bit of RNG and Cycle of Magic. But tier 6 Hand Smasher on this champion as well. The next one that we're gonna check out is actually Lua. So I actually checked multipliers. I haven't used Lua much in the past, so we're gonna give it a go today and see what sort of damage she can actually put out. Now, she is a pretty unique champion too. I have her built on a Savage and a Broken set. 4.7k attack, 248 crit damage, full crit rate, 195 speed, but I have 258 accuracy. That's the reason why she has lower attack compared to the other champions, because I actually have an accuracy banner on her, you know. And I don't have glyphs on all these pieces. But mainly, this one right here can become AoE if you have a full crit rate, which is very awesome. You could run her on a stun set as well, same like Skullcrown, and make the most out of her. She has a second AoE, which attacks all enemies 3 times. She gets a bit of a heal from there too. But she has this skill right here, attacks one enemy. It has a 6-point multiplier, guys. That's very powerful. She deals tons of damage with this skill. Decreases the target's turn meter by 100%. Ignores shield and block damage. That's the reason why I have accuracy for that turn meter. Ignore shield and block damage. Doesn't matter at all for accuracy. You don't need accuracy for all that. And masteries, I have offense and defense tree. Tier 6 Hand Smasher. Pretty much the same cup of tea what I have on Skullcrown in terms of masteries. The next champion that we're gonna talk about is Dark Elgae. Now, she's a very good counter for freeze champions. Whenever you're gonna get her, guys, from daily login rewards, definitely max her out, man. She's gonna be such a huge help for your arena team. Mainly because of her passives, right? Whenever that freeze comes in play, she's gonna be able to do all this on her kit. Now, this is another champion that you could potentially not run on full crit rate. The only thing is, the freeze is not guaranteed from a Torment, for example. She might not freeze, and then when you get to nuke with her, you're not gonna have 100% crit rate, and that's gonna get you wrecked. You're gonna lose the fight potentially because of that problem. But this skill right here increases attack on herself and attacks all enemies. So you don't really need to be dependable of a increased attack champion. That's why she's so good. She has a pretty decent multiplier, not as crazy as some of the other champions, but I have her built on a Savage and a Cruel set. 4.7k attack, almost 4.8, 250 crit damage, full crit rate, 195 speed. In terms of masteries, I actually have offense and I have support tree. You're most likely to encounter champions with shield in the lower tiers of arena. So you want to take Shield Breaker as a mastery to deal a bit of extra damage. You might not have a buff stripper in your team or anything like that. But tier 6, I still have Hand Smasher. And we are going all the way down to Sniper just to have a higher chance to decrease the speed with the A2. Even though we don't have a lot of accuracy on her, if she can decrease the speed on the nuker, if by any chance we're not killing the nuker, and that can hold it back and allow our team to overlap it, it's gonna be amazing. It might give you the clutch, you know. But this is kind of like the build that I have on her. Now, Magnar. Honestly, he is probably the best epic nuker in the entire game in terms of damage and in terms of utility overall, and I will explain you why. First, pro with him, he has very high HP. His damage is based on HP, so that means that it's easier for you to keep him alive. Defense down doesn't affect him. Decrease attack doesn't affect his damage. That's kind of like what I'm trying to say right here. So he's pretty easy to keep alive, you know, compared to the other nukers, which are way squishier than him. Now, this is a very solid build. It's a very endgame build, so it's a bit harder for you guys probably that are not at the super endgame to build Magnar like this. But he's on a Savage set, and total stats, we have 92k HP, 2k defense, 176 speed, 100 crit rate, 250 crit damage. Probably he's gonna be the one that hits the hardest. Sorry, we all know what his key does. This is kind of like the main thing on him. He's pretty good for other content as well, not just to deal damage. But in terms of masteries, I have offense and I have support 3 on him. I actually went with a bit of extra HP, and I wanted to get Cycle of Magic just to cycle his skills a bit more often, better than getting the defense 3, you know. Tier 6, of course, Helm Smasher. So mainly, it's kind of like get that Helm Smasher's mastery on your nukers if you're getting over 200 plus crit damage on them. If you're not just there yet, you might want to consider in getting Flawless Execution on all of them, because you'll be having a better benefit overall on your champions when they're dealing damage. They'll be more consistent with the damage that they're dealing. So what I want to show you first, guys, we're just gonna see what sort of damage they're doing, you know. Most of these champions are effective on Savage sets, okay? If you don't have Savage sets for each one of them, you cannot build any of them on Savage. Cruel Gear is the best second set for them. Third, crit damage set, the normal attack set. You do have the lethal from the Doom Tower now. We have the other one that gives 15% attack and 5 crit rate. I forgot the name of the set actually, because I haven't used it at all. But we have quite a few different sets that you can actually use on the champs. If it's a Skullcrown or a Lua, stun sets will actually work amazing on them as well. We're gonna go on stage 23, guys. That's where we normally test our damage dealers. We're gonna start with Lua first, guys. I brought more support to keep the nukers alive. We're not gonna go past the first wave. We just want to see roughly what sort of numbers the champions are throwing. And this is not a damage test. We're not doing a test to prove this is the best epic nuker or anything like that. It's just kind of to give us an idea of what we can expect from these champions. Maybe some of you have multiple of these champions and you're wondering which one of these champions you should build. Now I kind of explained you why which one of them is unique, why you should build each one of them, what you can actually do with them. So here we're just gonna have roughly a look at what sort of numbers they're throwing, you know. So let's land all the debuffs that we need, buff as well, and then put it on slow-mo to see her damage. So we're gonna start with the AoE, attacks 3 times, okay? 37k, 28, 30k, 33k. Fairly decent damage considering that she's not on super crazy stats. Considering with the legendaries that I'm testing here with crazy stats, she just have an accuracy banner to deplete that turn meter, because she's gonna be great for the Fire Knight early on to help you. Spider Dungeon if you need turn meter manipulation. Ice Golem if you need turn meter manipulation. Just generally for any sort of boss where you need some turn meter manipulation, you know, including Faction Wars. She's actually a very powerful champion for Faction Wars. So her A2 is definitely very impressive. And let's see her A3. Then we're going to go with the A1. So her A3 has a 6-point multiplier. Very powerful. 130k hit. That is actually very solid. Just thinking what sort of stat she has is actually impressive, you know. Because I'm testing mainly the top nukers in the game with crazy stats, so then I know which one of them kind of like what they do. But she's actually pretty impressive with the 4.7k attack that she has. 68k, the second hit cannot be critical. Okay, so that's kind of like the only oof, but it can work on a stun set, for example, if you're wondering about that. So Lua, pretty impressive actually. She's definitely a very decent champion. 2022, would I suggest you to build one if you get her? Hell yeah. If you're struggling with faction wars, if you're struggling with nukers for arena, considering that she's void affinity, 100%, I would take her in. Let's take in Dark Elhain. We're actually getting her for free. Everyone has a Dark Elhain, or everyone will have a Dark Elhain eventually. I can't remember how many days you actually gotta play to unlock the champion, but what I like about her is counter for Torments, for freeze champions because of the passives. And now I wouldn't normally need to have an increased attack like from Duchess here, but I have her veiled, so Faceless cannot kill her, so I actually get to use both of the skills without a problem. And let's see, 106k, 92k. She actually dealt crazy damage on the left champion here. I haven't managed to see the numbers, but maybe you guys did. So out of all the champions so far, she does hit pretty good, the biggest number what we've seen, but the stats are a bit different on champions, so that's why we're not kind of doing like, this is the best damage dealer, this is the test, you know, because we want to see just overall roughly what damage they do. And the A1 attacks one enemy. 79k hit, that's pretty good as well, definitely not bad. I like Dark Elhain a lot. I definitely need to build a couple more just to run them in arena. So we take that out, and I'm gonna bring in Jimbo. So I don't actually have full crit rate on him, because he's gonna manage to buff himself. That's what makes him unique. Plus the ability of ignoring unkillable, and all that is another thing that kind of puts him at the top if you think about it, you know. So we got all the right buffs, and now we can actually go with this skill. Let's see what we're getting out of here. 144k, 148. So if you're looking on the board, he actually dealt some serious damage. He has very similar multipliers with Foley, for example, which is a legendary champion. Similar multipliers with Astralon, another legendary champion. I actually liked him a lot for arena. The only problem is there's so many champions with damage reduction in arena that he's not as relevant, you know, for the end game arena, like to ignore Swift Parry and all that. 62k hit. We did attack a different champion there though, so he's pretty good with the A1 too. I really like Jimbo a lot. If you need him for faction wars, now that the faction is open, he's actually gonna throw in some solid damage. If we're taking him away, we have two more left. We're gonna leave Skullcrown for the last. Magna. Now check this bad boy out. I did specify he's on pretty crazy build here, and he does have the aura from Venus, because we're not gonna be able to increase his damage in a different way. We're gonna give him that aura just because the rest of the champions are actually getting increased attack. So check this out. Look at this bad boy. Bang, huh? He is such a monster, man. Such a monster. So good for even for endgame arena. The only thing that kind of put him off a bit now for platinum arena is the empowerment, you know. Unfortunately, we cannot empower epic champions. Would be so cool if we could empower some epic champions as well, honestly. This skill hits pretty hard too. The A1 hits pretty hard too. I find them like pretty equal. I don't see like a massive difference in terms of damage with those skills, but 151k hit with Magnar. I love the dude. I haven't used him in a while in arena actually, but I gotta try him at some point. Skullcrown. I know we wasted around 100 energy, guys. C'est la vie. It's not the end of the world. Skullcrown. Now one thing with her here, she's the only one now on Savage, but if you wanna get the most out of her overall, especially for this sort of content, Blender comps, right? You want to use the A1 first, because when they're on over 50% HP, she's gonna get a double hit with A1, which overall is gonna bring in a lot of damage. If we're checking the A2, let's see. 104k, 115k. Very solid damage considering she's not on Savage. She does have around 500 to 600 more attack compared to the other champions. Now, I'm still not convinced that that 600 attack beats a Savage set, you know? I don't think it does, honestly. I really don't think it does. But that's pretty good damage. Now, with the A1, if we're gonna go on it, Blender comps are still decent, you know? They definitely help you farm medals in a decent manner. So many other teams are actually fast farms overall, you know. 40k plus hit with the Skullcrown, not a bad damage overall. But if we're gonna have a quick look at multipliers and then we're gonna end it, guys, Alika, she's another awesome epic champion. I'm actually quickly gonna show them to you in the index just to give them a quick shout out. They have decent multipliers too, and if you don't have better champions, you could use them, especially for faction wars. So Alika is one of the sisters. The only thing I have against her, she needs so many books. She has a good AoE. Then we actually have Siege Hulk, another champion that buffs attack and hits AoE. Pretty decent champion too. Zargala, she's still awesome. Defense down. She kind of got a bit power creep though. She's an awesome champion. And Sinesha, because we were talking about Blender comps and all this. She's another awesome champion. We kind of know what she does, but mainly is the A1. When they're under 50% HP, she hits double. Sinesha, Skullcrown, the best two champions, the best combo for Blender comps. But Magnar, his multipliers are pretty solid. 0.22 HP is kind of hard to compare it with the attack, so maybe we're gonna leave that out. But if we have a look at Skullcrown, she has 1.8 on the A1 and she has a 4.3 on the A2. That's pretty strong. On Gimbo, we have 4 on the A2, 2 on the A1. So a bit lower than Skullcrown. Dark Elgae has a 3.1 on the A1 and she has a 3.8 on the A2. And we have Lua, 2.7 on the A1, 1.4 on the A2, multiplied with 3 times. And we have the lucky shot right here, which is a 6 point. And then you have Alika. She has a 6.3 on the A2, which is a single target, 4.2 on the A1, single target, and a 4 on the AoE. These are very high multipliers. I haven't put her in my top because she needs so many books and I'm not really using her anywhere else. Most of the ones I've put are void affinity, guys, but if you are curious about her, she is very powerful as well. Hopefully this video kind of helped you out to decide on how to build your nukers, where to use each one of them, specific nukers for what sort of teams, and overall hopefully you enjoyed the video. But that was all for this one. I'll catch you all soon in the next one. Peace.